The president's 2016 priority is gun control, but that may not be one of the biggest threats facing the nation this year. Martin Feldstein, Harvard Economics Professor, is watching 4 major geopolitical threats that he says could affect the U.S. and global economy, and he joins me now. What I loved about this article was that you pointed out 4 things that are not at the top of people's list. For example, you highlighted the conflict between Shia and Sunni Muslims as a greater threat than ISIS. How so?
Well, ISIS is a very serious threat, and I don't mean to downplay it. But the Shia-Sunni threat is at the level of states, at the level of governments. We see it playing out now. I mean, I wrote that piece about 2 weeks ago, but we see it playing out now between Iran and Saudi Arabia. And the Shias and Sunnis have hated each other for more than 1,000 years. And the Shia, which is what the Iranians are, have felt they've been getting the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
And sometimes they've been beaten with the stick.
Right.
And so there's a lot of enthusiasm for revenge. And they have their proxies, Hezbollah and others. So
you really see that coming to a head, and
not
it feels
necessarily. I mean, I'm not saying the word risk was high in that list, not prediction.
Let's be precise. I like that. Thank you. One of the other threats that you highlighted was Putin and Russia.
Yeah.
And you made the point that with the price of oil falling, he's still very much extending himself around the world in his power. And a lot of it has to do with keeping everybody at home very impressed with what he's doing. That becomes a precarious balance as he's forced to press out further and further. Who do you think is the candidate that's best set to deal with him?
I don't think we have an answer to that question.
No? Is that none of them, or is that you're not taking my bait?
I don't think that, well, I mean, there are 2 separate questions. Who would I like to see as president? And
who could deal with him?
It's not a question of just dealing with him. It's a question of having a U.S. military posture, which is much more substantial, much more impressive than we've had for the last several years. So we've been shrinking the defense budget. We have been backing away from obligations. Nobody knows whose side we're on in a lot of things. So that's what the next president has to do.
Yeah, and that's going to, I mean, and that causes risk to the global economy, among other things. I mean, that's one of the things that we're talking about. We saw Putin, again, since I wrote that piece, saying that NATO is his enemy, and NATO is trying to contain Russia. Yeah.
So, again, he's trying to play how strong he is, and we have to be the leaders in standing up to that. Yeah.
2 other threats. You talked about China, that their GDP is growing more rapidly than the U.S. because they have many, many more people out there. At the same time, they can use that GDP in order to exert military influence around the world. I mean, it gives them a lot of capital to use and weight to throw around, so to speak. Because we're running out of time. Number 4 was the cyber threat, cyber attacks.
Right.
And that kind of trumps it all.
It does, in a sense, because people worry about, have they stolen my ID? Have they taken my Social Security number? Much more important is, will we have cyber attacks which try to shut down our power, shut down our water supply, shut down the air traffic controllers? And that is something that not just foreign powers, but also non-national states who wish us ill could do.
Yeah. Marty Feldstein, my favorite Harvard professor. It's so good to see you.
Good to see you here.
All right.